Welcome to the Honest Hour. I'm your host, Luis Acevedo, and we have a lot to cover today. And just a quick reminder, I am the founder of MOT Media, and I am the co-host of MOT Today, which airs on Sundays at noon. And so today we start the week off with the Honest Hour, the show that comes on 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. We have a good one for you guys today. So to jump right into it, there's a lot of other topics that I want to primarily cover for the meat of the show, but there's a lot to cover today. So we're just going to start off with this article that I found earlier of Ron DeSantis going against the WHO pandemic control. So I'm going to look up this article right now. It's actually really promising. So I will say that I do believe Ron DeSantis is going to run for governor in 2020. President in 2024. He already is the governor of Florida. I think that he'll run in 2024. And I think what he's doing right now is gearing up for a run. So today, what he did, if you're unaware of what's been taking place. So let me give you a little backstory. We covered it in the show earlier last week. So basically, the Biden administration wants to give the World Health Organization unilateral power to determine when a pandemic would be. And they would be able to gather information from countries that aren't even experiencing a pandemic, aren't even in national crises or crisis. They would allow the World Health Organization to determine who, when a nation is in crises. And so they basically have unilateral power, and they would be over they would basically have power over every nation's health. Essentially. And so today, Governor DeSantis came out and said that Florida will not bow down to the World Health Organization. Now, I think that is, things that we need to hear more from our politicians. I will say that I think this is partially political on his behalf as far as Ron DeSantis goes. The reason I say that is because we have to remember that Ron DeSantis is also the man who is passing anti-free speech laws in Florida that nobody wants to talk about. He basically made it illegal to talk bad about Israel. So I'm having a hard time finding the article, but I did a TikTok video on it if you guys are really interested in the article regarding the WHO condemnation, saying that Florida will not go along with it. But let me show you guys something about Ron DeSantis that most people are unaware of. And I think this is an important point to bring up. This is very important because so many people right now, we're seeing this huge shift in politics right now, where people are wanting to become more Republican because they think that the Democratic Party is completely insane, which they're partially right. However, the Republican Party isn't much better. For example, Mike Levin, who made it illegal to condemn Israel. Ron DeSantis, let me pull it up. Ron DeSantis, anti-Semitic law. Let's look it up. Let's go. Ron DeSantis, Israel law. So pulling it up right now. Let's see. All right, so I'm working on finding it right now, but basically, it was an anti-free speech law. Let me try another search engine because a lot of stuff, Google's really sucking these days. DuckDuckGo isn't much better. And so it's kind of hard to find a lot of these articles. That's why I try to save them. But let's see here. So anti-free speech law. Right here, I think this is it. That's not it. Come on. There is an article out here where basically he is restricting speech. You got any theories about monkeypox stuff? Yeah, I do actually. So I'll benchmark this Ron DeSantis stuff, but trust me, guys, you can look it up, do your own research. He is basically making it illegal to talk bad about Israel. So what I think is going on with the monkeypox, in my opinion, so let me give you guys a little background as to my school of thought here. So I do not think things that are viral, aka viruses, I do not believe them to be transmissible, contagious. I don't know what I can really say here without getting censored or banned. So with that, I don't believe there's any real threat. Don't care about the Johnny Depp or Amber Heard. I don't think. I think that's just pure distraction. Anyway, I think really there is a purpose for it, and that is to get people involved in public opinion in public court and make that popular. But anyway, getting back to consider resisting arrest. So getting back to the monkeypox, I think what's taking place now is just another narrative to allow the government to spend a lot more money, because that's what we're seeing with Ukraine and Russia. Right now, we're just spending $40 billion. We actually covered this in the MOT Today show, where I said the reason why there's another war going on is so that way they can keep the money printer going, because we're at risk of defaulting on our debt. And if you default on the debt, you can't print any more money because we're a debt-based economy. And if you can't print any more money, then you go in deflation. And who does deflation hurt? Those who have debt and those who lend debt. So it's not really a good thing for the macroeconomic structure, but it's better for the little guys. Regular, average, everyday consumers. Our purchasing power goes up in a deflationary period. Anyway, so what I think is taking place with the monkeypox is just going to be another avenue where the government can dump a bunch of money into. I mean, they're already spending almost $300 million for vaccines for the monkeypox. And so I think they're just building up this narrative. And I think a lot of what we're seeing is actually adverse reactions to the jab. I don't really think that there's a terrorist attack going on, a bioterrorist attack going on. I do think that, well, I don't know. I mean, if you consider jabs a bioterrorist attack, then yes, I would. But that's what I think about the monkeypox thing. I think it's just a scare tactic. But there is some interesting stuff going on right now that we were going to cover in the show. For instance, there's narratives. And I want you guys to understand here, too, what I'm trying to do in this show is tell you the narratives that are coming about in the mainstream media, right? And try to, I guess, deliver them in a way where you're not going to be filled with fear, because there's no need to be afraid. A lot of these are just narratives, and I don't think that there's anything to be concerned about. So, for instance, now we're seeing this narrative build up with the monkeypox. Is it a bioterrorist attack, right? Because we have breaking news for those that are on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. You'll be able to see this. Those on TikTok, you will not. But I will read it for you guys, so it's all good. You'll hear my beautiful voice. I have a very mellifluous way of speaking. Anyway, so right here it says, bombshell report, monkeypox appears to be the lab strain with unknown characteristics. So the monkeypox outbreak currently springing up in countries around the world appears to be an originate from a lab strain, a source at the European Center for Disease Control. So that article came out over the weekend. And then there was another article that came out yesterday showing more evidence, if you will, that this is a bioterrorist attack, although I don't believe it is, because once again, I think this is just a scare tactic, another way to spend money and get people in fear, because we're living in such a society where you need constant stimulation. And so you need to switch the narrative continuously. As I also mentioned before, we're going to be ping-ponging from narratives as we go through this. I won't even say collapse, but we're going to be experiencing supply chain issues. We're going to be experiencing restrictions when it comes to foods and things of that nature. And I don't think that the food supply thing is going to be that big of a deal. I think we're just going to go back to more of a classic way of life, right? 1950s, 1940s. So you're not going to be able to order your burritos at 2 o'clock in the morning, but you will be able to get your necessities Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. I believe that's where we're heading as far as the economy goes. And so things will be okay. But a lot of people are so used to this instant gratification that they're going to have a really hard time managing in that world. But anyway, so going back to this whole monkeypox thing, because I think this is just another narrative for the government to spend some money. That's what I really think is taking place. So this article came out yesterday, and it's really just to stoke fear, right? So there was a narrative that, oh, the United States was working with Ukraine, and they ended up making this lab, or this vaccine, or this monkeypox virus, rather, that is now spreading. But then another narrative came out yesterday stating that the Wuhan Lab had recently assembled a monkeypox strain using methods flagged for creating contagion pathogens. And so now we have this mass confusion because you have certain people in the United States that are saying Russia made the lab and this is part of World War III. I mean, they made the monkeypox virus, but then you have Russia and China having a task force put together where they are attempting to figure out where this strain came from. But then you have articles like this coming out saying, well, in February of 2022, Wuhan Lab was working on a monkeypox strain. What's this? It's already illegal to sleep or camp on state-owned property. America crazy. America is pretty crazy, but I think times have been crazier. And I will say this too, that there's a lot of things that we can do, right, to get back some of our freedoms if that's your true concern, such as, building up strong communities. That's one of the biggest things that we want to promote here at MOT is to localize supply chains, build strong communities, and just become more self-sufficient in as many ways as possible. Because I think that having a strong community is where your wealth is at. If you don't have a strong community, then you're not very wealthy. Even if you have a lot of money, you can be a very wealthy person and you can hire people, but that isn't the same as actually having a loyal community, a loyal family on your side. There isn't a comparison to that. So that's one of the biggest things that people can do right now is get involved in what's going on in your local level, get involved and try and find like-minded people. Hello, how's it going? So yeah, with this whole monkeypox thing, I think it's just a fear tactic. I do think it's something to pay attention to because we are seeing the narrative ramping up, right? Where we're seeing a potential third case in Florida. We're seeing New York City and other places starting to implement mask mandates, right, because of the monkeypox. And we're also seeing Belgium implementing quarantines for this. And you're seeing a lot of truthers, specifically Alex Jones is one of the main proponents of this narrative, and that is this is going to kill a lot of people. I don't think it is. I think that there's just going to be a fear narrative that is going to drive people crazy. What do you know about the aliens and our time being up? I don't believe in aliens in the sense that they're coming from outer space and our time being up. I don't know what you mean by that. As far as extraterrestrials, obviously, I think that's legit. But they're not coming from outer space, I believe, because extraterrestrial means extra territory, extra. So there's extra land. And I think that there's a lot more land on Earth that we haven't discovered or haven't been allowed to discover or explore. And I think that's where the real extraterrestrials are. I don't know what that is. The Avracar? I'm not sure. But yeah, so with this whole monkeypox narrative, it's building up to basically get people in the mindset, I believe, that we have been on the moon for a really long time. AIM research. Okay, I mean, yes, some people think that we've been on the moon. Some people think that we have a colony on the moon. I don't believe any of that. I don't believe that we can leave Earth. That's my opinion. Who have a flying saucer back in the 50s and people thought it was a flying saucer. Yeah, so as far as that goes, I mean, that's probably Nazi technology. You guys are aware that the Nazis had flying saucers, right? And that they are the ones who created the NASA. So it's probably Nazi lost technology that we're witnessing, and we're way more advanced than we lead on as far as our military power goes. You should do some more research. Yeah, I've done a lot of research and I've thought about this a lot. I don't think that we can leave Earth. There's Operation Fishbowl, where the government actually attempted to pierce the dome, because once they went to Antarctica, there were a lot of pilots who noticed domes, that they couldn't go over a certain height because of the domes. And so in Operation Fishbowl, the military attempted to break through the domes and they couldn't break through the domes. And whenever you watch a rocket video, it never, ever, ever, ever leaves Earth's atmosphere. And NASA openly admits that we have never left Earth's atmosphere. So if you haven't left Earth's atmosphere, but you've been to the moon, then the Earth and then the moon has to be in the Earth's atmosphere. Also, there's a lot of footage on there being potentially two suns, which is totally contrary to what we're told about space. That just throws everything in the face of it. I would recommend looking up Crow 777. He's a good source of information on that Air Force craft. All right, I'll have to look into that. But yeah, so that's what's going on with the monkeypox thing. And Ron DeSantis, yeah, let's get back to that. The dome pushes you down. Yeah, so let's see here. So Ron DeSantis, anti-Semitism speech. See, this may be it right here. Governor DeSantis speaks to the Jewish Federation of Florida about the importance of stopping anti-Semitism and supporting Israel. So you can tell he's kind of a shill already, right? So just because Ron DeSantis is doing some good stuff doesn't mean he's necessarily a good guy and not bought and paid for. I mean, I liked Trump back in 2016, but then I quickly disliked Trump after Operation Warp Speed, where he wanted to get all the jabs out as quickly as possible. And basically, you just found out that he was bought and paid for just like everybody else in the government, it seems. But anyway, so that was an interesting topic I wanted to start the show off with Ron DeSantis. I do think that he's going to make a run in 2024. I do think that he will stand a good chance against Trump. I think a lot of people are starting to lose interest in Trump. And then as far as the monkeypox ordeal, it's something to watch. It's something to pay attention to as the narrative builds. But I don't think it's anything that people should be really concerned about. And the reason for that is I do not believe these, I don't know what I can really say here, are contagious. The reason I say that is because they are dead. And from my understanding, they originate on cells that need detoxification. So cells that need to be detoxed will produce viruses, and those viruses will then detox those cells, which is a beneficial thing. It's a really beneficial thing to have. So they're not bad and they're not contagious, but they're not contagious on a germ level. They are contagious on a sympathetic level, similar to how one can yawn after watching somebody else yawn, or smile after somebody else smiles. So that's how I believe they're contagious, but they're not contagious on a germ level. But bacteria, that kind of stuff, is definitely contagious on a germ level. So I don't think there's anything to worry about unless you've been jabbed or planned on getting jabbed. Then I believe that you can get some sort of man-made virus that way. But otherwise, I don't think it's possible. So it's important to keep an eye on what's going on with the whole monkeypox thing, because I feel that there may be a attempt to lock things down again, to make people wear masks again, and to potentially push another vaccine. That's what I think that the narrative is gearing up for. Ultimately, it's to print more money, to throw more money at something, because we need the money printer to keep going. Because if we end up in a deflationary period, the big banks, the big institutions are really going to pay for it. Whereas people like you and I, we'd actually benefit from a deflationary period because we'd have more purchasing power. However, there would be less jobs. The economy will be at, it would be decreasing. It wouldn't be accelerating at the pace it is, but you would have more purchasing power. And I do think that it will be better overall. And I do think it's inevitable that we're going to be experiencing that. The one question I do have, though, is how would that affect the cryptocurrency market, because the cryptocurrency market seems to be fueled by our constant inflation. But if we have a deflationary environment, will cryptocurrencies suffer for that? Or will they do well in that environment? Because we know that gold and silver will not do well in a deflationary period. And everybody likes to say Bitcoin is a good hedge against inflation. It's a better hedge against inflation than gold. So how will Bitcoin act in a deflationary period when more money isn't being printed and the dollar's purchasing power is increasing and not decreasing? Because that's one of the biggest selling points for cryptocurrency, is that the dollar's buying power is decreasing. You can't keep your money in the bank. The stock markets are okay, but you can really get mad gains in crypto, and there's a lot of appreciation there. So what happens in a deflationary period for cryptocurrency? I don't know. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that. But yeah, now in other news, there's some other stuff that we want to cover tonight. So let's start off with what's going on here. So Julius Fast Body Language. I think I read that book. Okay. So it looks like what happened in Buffalo, as this is, per usual, the mass shooting has now allowed the government to become more, draconian in their measures to stop the Second Amendment. And so this happened over the weekend, I believe, or this morning. I can't remember if I read it Sunday or this morning. But let's see here. So I'll pull up the article. So Fed halts sales of homemade guns before August rules implemented. So the ATF has told one of the nation's largest homemade firearms part retailers, JSD Supply, to stop selling its products. So it says the move comes more than 3 months before President Joe Biden's controversial ghost gun regulation goes into effect on August 24th, 2022. The new rule, which is expected to be challenged in courts, bans the business of manufacturing unserialized buy, build, shoot kits that can be purchased without a background check. The so-called ghost gun contains parts that can be assembled into a gun. These kits will now be considered firearms under the Gun Control Act. Pennsylvania-based JSD Supply received a letter from ATF dated May 9th, 2022, ordering the company to immediately cease and desist the sale of full set parts that could be converted into a functioning firearm. So they're selling parts that don't actually aren't under the Gun Control Act, but now they're saying that they are under the Gun Control Act, which would then require them to totally change up their operation, and they have to halt until they obey what the government wants. But they're going to be battling this in court. So this is the court battle that's going to be taking place, and basically we're going to be seeing our all of our amendments are being challenged right now very hard. And the Second Amendment is arguably one of the most important ones, and it's definitely being targeted. And I think that's why we have a lot of these shooting events, is to build a narrative to support the banning of guns. And so one of the biggest things that I think that they're trying to combat right now is being able to make your own gun, because then it would be untraceable, right? Like 3D printing guns, stuff like that. That would be hard to trace. And so I think that they want to rein that in and try and control it even more. And I think that's what we're seeing here. And I think that this other piece of information that came out today with this new artificial intelligence is supporting of that fact too. Let's pull up this article here. So we have the article titled, "We have no idea how this will be used." Let's see here. We have no idea how this will be used. AI gun detection gaining popularity in the U.S. So AI scanners may become the norm in the United States as governments and private companies look to beef up their surveillance options in the wake of rising gun violence. According to a report from the Washington Post, systems like Evolve technology are becoming increasingly popular. Evolv's machines are similar to metal detectors, but instead use AI and light emission to detect concealed firearms on a person. So we're seeing this going to be used probably in New York City. So the system is gaining traction throughout the U.S. The mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, suggested using this technology on the subways to detect whether or not somebody has a gun because of the shooting that happened in the Brooklyn subway. And so basically, we're going to be seeing this mass surveillance as these false flag operations continue, and they're going to be used also to pinpoint domestic terrorists. If you look at what's taking place in the Ukraine is using AI facial recognition to determine who is Russian in their midst. And so I believe that this technology will end up being used on individuals who have a totally different way of viewing the system. Now, this isn't to be fear mongering or anything like that, like they're going to come and get you. No, that's not at all what I'm saying. I believe this technology will be primarily used in cities, and those cities will be smart cities. And I think that there are options outside of smart cities, because I do believe with the invention of smart cities, no ammo, no problem, gun range switches to laser bullets. Right, yeah. Right. That's a good point. Bullets are no longer have to be used to use laser guns now. Good point. Yeah, that's a true. But maybe there's going to be some sort of regulation on the device used to create the laser. I don't know. With some really futuristic stuff. Reminds me a little bit of Halo. But so what I was getting at with the smart city stuff is I do believe smart cities, there's always going to be a new regulation. Yep, you're right. Yeah. So, and I don't think that regulations are necessarily bad either. I do think they serve a purpose, but I do believe that there gets to a point where the regulations are overreaching. So I'm definitely not a statist. I'm definitely not big government, not a fan of big government. I want people to be more self-reliant, localize supply chains, build up strong communities. But we have to understand that we even create regulations for ourselves, for our own household. So would it make sense to not have regulations in your nation, right? You would want certain regulations in your nation. That makes total sense. Like in your neighborhoods, I get why there's a speed limit going 25 miles an hour, right? Like regulating the speed totally makes sense, right? 20 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour. You have kids right around there. You don't want your kids to get hurt. You don't want people driving like madmen through your neighborhood. So it makes sense. Even if the government wasn't in place, you would form your own government to enforce your own laws. That's just the way of the land. The problem is when the bureaucrats get to it, it destroys what good mankind is done. I actually have I disagree a little bit with that. I think that mankind over time, its morals, which build the government, its morals and values build the government, and over time they begin to erode. Therefore, the government begins to become more corrupt. And so I think that's what actually happens. I believe the will of the people determine how the government runs. And so once the will of the people has been corrupted, we then see the government become more and more corrupted. And that's what we're living in right now. Just look at our culture in the United States and then look at how corrupt our government is. Our moral compass is completely gone, as is our freaking, sanity in the government. Looks like exactly right what you just said. Yeah, so that's what I think is, I don't really think it's the bureaucrats. I don't like pointing the fingers. I think that we have more power over the government than we like to think, which is why I want to encourage people. I want to become more active in local government as well, wherever you're at. I think that's where you should really focus if you're into politics at all, if you want to have a good place to live, a good city. Local politics are where it's at. If you have money, influence, network, maybe then you can go congressional and Senate, and maybe even presidential and governor and state level as well. But for most of us, I think the local politicians, sheriffs, local government, it's going to be where it's at, where your voice will be heard. And so if you can just change your community, you can then change your government tremendously. It's not even by force. It's just something that you do on your own, right? Because we all have tyrants inside of us. We all have evil inside of us. And so if we can attempt to convert or show light. I don't know. I don't want to get all spiritual here, but I think that that's a huge thing. So as opposed to blaming the bureaucrats, as opposed to blaming the government for all of our problems, we have to accept that we're the ones that actually allowed for it to take place. More importantly, it's men. Yeah, that's very true. So it's men who really allowed this to take place, right? Because men have become feminized for a very, very long time. And so we now see men don't stand up for anything. They won't protect anything. I mean, they're sending off their daughters to go to universities where they're going to get drunk and railed by like 5 to 10 different guys before they graduate. Their hearts are broken and now they're seeking attention from everybody. And he's just letting her get buried in debt and buried in dick. I protect my family and friends. That's great. That's great. That's great. That's what we should all do. That's what we should all do. So, so what I was saying with the smart cities, though, I think this is a very important point that nobody's really talking about. So with the smart cities, they are going to come to fruition, and there's going to be a lot of good things that come about because of them. I think that city states will become they will be the new thing. I think city states will become the new thing because of smart cities. The reason I say that is I didn't let the media and the world destroy my masculinity. Great. And don't let food destroy your masculinity either. That's another key component. Make sure you're eating some meats, some eggs, maybe a raw liver every now and then, a raw heart every now and then, a raw steak every now and then. It's good for the body, good for the mind, good for the soul. But the connection between smart cities and city states is this. You have in Nevada right now a bill attempting to be passed. Plastic loans, I hear that. You have the government in Nevada attempting to allow corporations to buy property in a county, make their own government. Let me repeat that. The government is working to allow private corporations in Nevada to buy up land in a county and then make it their own government. Nice. I've never had raw deer heart. I wish I had. Hopefully one day I'll be able to. I eat raw food once in a while. I like a raw steak. I like raw liver occasionally. Michigan 8 miles of empty houses. Reassess, make your own government. You're correct again. Yeah, my buddy killed it. Nice. I know that's a tradition. I'm originally from Michigan, and that is a tradition. You kill a deer, then you eat its heart. That's a big tradition. So the government is attempting to allow these private corporations to own their own government, to be their own government. And so then what happens is they become a city state because they can acquire, if you read into the bill, they'll be able to acquire and work with other county governments. And if you look into what an unincorporated county is, that you can create your own government. You yourself can create your own government in an unincorporated county. I've done a lot of research into this. That's like a lifetime dream of mine because I think city states are coming back. Anyway, so you can then create your own little state because these corporations can then partner up with other counties and then become one great city, right? And then now you have your city states again. And so now your corporations are governments in city states, which is actually a fascist state. That's legitimately fascist, and that's where we're heading. This is where the left gets right and the right gets wrong. But they need to have a few degrees before that can happen, or they have to have their own land. Exactly. Yeah, 100%. So we are seeing that in degrees. Maybe you're talking about Freemasonry. I don't know what you're talking about degrees, but maybe it's Freemasonry. Anyway, so yeah, that's what's happening right now in Nevada. And that's what's going to allow them. No, okay. I don't know what you're referring to by degrees then. But in Nevada, they are trying to allow private corporations to to be their own government. And then that's how you're going to get city states. And then these governments are going to be making smart cities, right? These corporations are tech corporations. The tech corporation in particular in Nevada is Blockchain LLC, which they're trying to make digital IDs on the blockchain and all this stuff, right? And so your smart cities are going to be run on the Internet of Things. And these tech companies, Google's another one. You're going to see Google cities everywhere, Apple cities everywhere. They are acquiring a lot of land. Google is right now, right? They're saying it's for data, for service farms. I don't know. The Freemasons are the head of the corruption, I feel like. What do you think about the Masons? I'll touch on that in a second. But I do think that that's where the future's heading. I think there's going to be an atomization of America, and you're going to have a bunch of city states. I think that's going to be the future. And then that allows for us to make our own communities. And then this is also where cryptocurrency comes into play, because cryptocurrency allows you to make your own currency for your city state. And if you go back far enough in the United States history, you see that there was a bunch of different currencies in the United States way before we had the Federal Reserve. It was religion, if you remember, in Oregon in 19... Yeah, exactly. OSHA. That's right. OSHA. Yeah. 100%. I think that's who you're talking about. OSHA, who came over here from India, created his own little city, and then it went downhill. A lot of conspiracies that Ronald Reagan killed him, or his administration had him killed. He took over the police department, the city courts, and the Supreme Court, Oregon, and changed the signs. Exactly. So it is very doable. You see, it is very doable, and there are better ways to do it than starting this like cult-like thing that he did. So I'm very optimistic about the future. I really am, because there's so many opportunities there, especially with cryptocurrencies, because it gives you the ability to create your own economic system as well for your own city. And once again, historically, this has happened in the United States, where there were a bunch of different currencies at one time. I mean, it was even at one point that you had debt in one state, you can go to another state and no longer have debt and no longer have to worry about the debt collectors. So I think that we're going to be seeing some more of that as we go into the future here. And so I'm very excited to see how this plays out. I think there's opportunities everywhere, guys. So there really isn't need to be afraid. This is why we do shows like this, so that way we can be better informed, and then we can make better decisions because of the information we're getting is of high quality. That's what we try to do here. So getting back to Eric's question regarding the Masons, I don't think that they run anything. I think they're middle management. Yeah. Yep. I think that they're middle management. I think that there is a group that sort of runs everything, but I don't think that we know who they are. And charged and changed every sign and took over the town and the courts, and the police did just that. Yeah. It's really incredible. So it's really incredible what happened with that city, or that village, whatever it's called exactly. Made his own country within a country, had to find something on him to stop him. Yeah. He's a genius. I'll give him that. He was a genius and very influential. Very influential. And I think that can be done again in a more positive way. I actually think it is kind of being done right now. For instance, I would check out Owen Benjamin. Owen Benjamin has Beartaria, which I am a proud member of Beartaria. Do you think World War III has already begun? Yeah, I do. And I don't think it's going to be with nukes or anything like that. I think that's a bunch of pre-programming nonsense. I think it's going to be more radiation, potentially from 5G towers that cause issues. Oh, I don't even know if I can say that stuff. So hopefully I don't get censored or blocked, right? That's why we had to start this other channel, because we have the MOT Today, which has almost 40,000 followers on there, but we've been shadow banned so crazy that now we have to work on building up this other page, which is why we're here doing this on this channel and building up this channel. And you won't see much content on the MOT Today because we're just shadow banned. You know, we used to get anywhere from 10 to 100,000 views consistently on videos. Now we're not even getting 1,000 views on videos we put out. It's insane. But we can put out the same video on the MOT News and get thousands of views. So we know that we're being shadow banned on the other platform. So yes, everyone gets it. Everyone gets it. But yeah, so Beartaria is, I think, going to be something similar to that in the future. It's very promising. I don't either. I think it will be more of a cyber war. Yeah, 100%. A lot of cyber war. And I think it's going to be more it's going to be more spread out. I think, you're going to have some domestic violence in the United States, I believe. I do believe that there's going to be a balkanization in the United States, which means that there will probably be some sort of civil war and proxy war. 100%, 100%. The CIA gave more Zuckerberg an award. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, yeah, if you look into that, I mean, yeah, Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know if he maybe unknowingly went in and worked for the government, right? Because didn't DARPA try to create Facebook before Facebook became what it is now, and then DARPA is now partnered with Facebook or something like that? I know it's different from the CIA, but that's something else that's pretty interesting. But yeah, I think that cool. So I think that World War III, I think we're in the midst of it, especially right now, what's going on with China, which lead me to the last topic that we had for today. That is Biden allegedly misspoke, saying that he would defend Taiwan if China were to try and take it back with military action. They would come in with military force and try and defend Taiwan. First off, Taiwan belongs to China. Let's get it right. Let's look at the history. I don't care what anybody says. You look at the history. Taiwan is China's. The nationalists fled China to Taiwan, and they then try to call Taiwan the real China. It's not. China's the real China. Anyway, so we have no business trying to intervene in this. We're just trying to keep control and power, but the Western powers are failing. We're losing our grip. If John Q. Citizen has his own city and he owns it, it is. So Joe Biden said that, but we were supposed to have a strategic ambiguity with Taiwan because we don't want to go to war with China and we don't want to go to war with Russia. And right now, the Biden administration is debating sending special forces to the U.S. Embassy in Kiev in Ukraine. So that just smells like a false flag waiting to happen, which would then spark the need to send troops and maybe a draft over to the Ukraine to help defend Ukraine. And then we have this tension building up with China and Taiwan. And then Joe Biden allegedly misspeaks and says, we will defend Taiwan militarily if China were to attack them. But then we're stretched too thin. Something nobody talks about is the fact that our military is dwindling in size, which is why we have these crazy campaign videos that are going out and trying to get people in it. And our military is insanely weak right now. Obviously, there's some strong people in the military. I have a lot of veteran friends. I went to college with a lot of veterans. And I know a lot of people who saw action. But there are a lot of people in the military who are straight up weaklings. I'll put it that way. I'll keep it PG. They have a card system. So I've been told by some of the people I know who are in the reserves, National Guard, and other branches in the military, they have a card system where if the recruit or whatever is feeling too stressed out because of the drill sergeant yelling at him, they can put up their card and say, I'm feeling stressed. Can you stop yelling at me? That's the military, guys. That's the future of the military. And so our military is crumbling. It's failing. That doesn't mean there aren't good men there. I don't think there should be women in the military at all. I think that's wrong for women to be in any law enforcement, any kind of woman, any kind of military position. Could you please get that done for me? Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's insane. So we are seeing the buildup of the collapse of the military industrial complex in the United States, at least on a global scale. I think some of it will remain on a national scale, but it'll be fragmented. And I think a lot of good men who are in the military will end up starting their own city states potentially. I know of some people who are talking about that. We got a comment over here on YouTube. I was listening to another YouTuber earlier who said China never had control over Taiwan, and I was wondering if that's true. If they ever really did, why didn't they take it over? That's a good question. Let's see here. A 1960 speech. I'll have to look into that speech. How much has Putin paid you to say that? Zero. I don't get paid. But if you want to pay me, if you want to support MOT Media, you can cash app me personally at Luis Acevedo 27. That's LuisAcevedo 27. Banging his shoes at the United Nations, saying the world would be morally and economically unable to be able. Welcome to 2022. Yeah. And so getting back to Mick's question over here on YouTube, they did try to take it over long ago. I think I actually covered this before. So Mao and Stalin had plans to take it over back in the day, but they didn't because they were fighting multiple other wars and trying to secure. No, because we don't need Putin propaganda. I mean, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can just leave. I don't know how this is being. I don't know how I'm being a propagandist. I'm spitting facts here, brother, and you just don't like it. The West is falling. Accept it. It might be a good thing for us to not be at the center stage. She's mad that she voted for Biden. Maybe. I mean, come on. How is what I'm saying supporting a collapse of the military-industrial complex? They just received $40 billion. Our military-industrial as well. What are you talking about? We don't have enough people in the Army to be fully staffed in the Army. We don't have men who are trained properly and that are not wimps in the military that are coming in right now. There may be good men in the military currently. There may be strong men in the military currently. But the new recruits, a lot of them are very, 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 very weak-minded and weak physically. This is a proven fact. We have gotten weaker over the years. It's just proven. Our diet is horrible. Everything is bad. Not everything. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do to improve your life, and there's a lot of people who are having a great time. I'm having a great time. My family, my people, we're thriving. He loves America just like everyone else. He's just telling the truth about America. Exactly. I do love America. It's not what I think. I am very, very patriotic. What I'm talking about is getting back to the roots of the American way. Do you not understand that? We don't have enough people to get underway because they've all gotten out. Yeah, exactly. That's another thing. Like, why would you want to support? I'm not even Republican. I know you're getting back to the roots. You love America. I love America. You're telling the truth. Exactly. We're getting back to the roots here. That's the whole point. If you look at what our founders did, okay, I think this person's trolling, but we're going to keep it going because it may be entertaining for some people. So you're a whiner. I think you just don't like hearing true words. And a lot of people have a hard time hearing true words, especially if you have an emotional attachment to something. That's a huge issue for people. And so that's why it's important when, grown men are talking, you just sit back and listen. All opinions make freedom. You're a smart person. Do you want cheese with that wine? See this? That's awesome. Yeah, I do like cheese. I'm not a big fan of wine, though. I've never really been into wine. I'm more of a beer person, if you can't tell from my little beer belly. I don't drink a lot of beer, but I do like to drink some local craft beers every now and then. Anyway, so a collapse of the military-industrial complex. They just received $40 billion. Yeah, exactly, because they're trying to keep them from collapsing. Like, don't you see the Ponzi? This is a comment from the YouTube. Don't you see the Ponzi? They're trying to keep it from collapsing. It can't, I think there's a very informative show, and he has opened up his truth, and he's telling the truth. Fearmonger. I don't know how I'm a fearmonger. I'm telling you what can be done. So, for instance, Let's talk about food shortages. First off, I don't really think people are affected by the food shortages. Most of our military did not want to take the and we're 100%, 100%, 100%. So food shortages. Larry is a fan of why. So food shortages. I don't think food shortages are actually an issue for the main, like your most important meals, right? Which is mainly animal products. Whether you guys want to accept it or not, humans do have a diet. Humans have a human diet, just like other animals have an animal-specific diet, a species-specific diet. Humans are a species, and we have a specific diet. That specific diet is animal products and fruits. Vegetables, no. I mean, you can eat them if you want to, but they're not digestible. We don't have the digestive tract to digest vegetables. Good shortage is going to happen because 12 plants were burned to the ground by accident or by hate. That's exactly where I wanted to go with this, because if you look at those places, they were like potato places, factory farms, these disgusting places that probably shouldn't even be around, but people have gotten so used to these foods. So you might see chip shortages, you might see potato shortages, you might see bread shortages, you might see shortages of your sweets, right? But nothing that's really essential, because there's always a way to go and get that. Either you can grow it yourself, aka localize your supply chains, right? Grow it yourself, get your own chickens, get your own animals if you have the property to do so. If you don't, do what I do. I help out a local farmer. I go to a local farm. Every Sunday, I go over there. I help them out, do some work, get some free milk in exchange. Sometimes we get some free meat. We get some free butter. So it's a wonderful setup, and everybody can do that. Everybody can do that. You go 30, 40 minutes out of the city, everybody can do that if you have property to do so, and if the government doesn't go in your backyard. I think that's a scare tactic, because even in the Soviet Union, little known fact, everybody's afraid of communism, but most people are unaware of this fact in the Soviet Union, is that you were able to own a small acreage of private property in the Soviet Union and grow your own food and be self-sufficient. Even in the Soviet Union. Nobody told you that. Nobody told you that, but it's true. It's true. In the Soviet Union, you could have your own farm, grow your own food. Fact check it. Look it up. You might have to dig a little bit. I found it in a Soviet Union law book that I have in my bookshelf. Let's see. There were some comments here. Let's see if I missed anything. That's the only thing you know is fear, even to make things better. Serious question. Do you think Biden is doing a good job? Yeah, right. Well, you can't really blame Biden for everything. The American government was already falling apart before he came in, right? Trump, I don't think did much better. I mean, the debt increased under Trump tremendously. And now we're just spending like crazy with Biden, just like we were under Trump. I guess the one good thing about Trump is he didn't start any other wars. That was a really good thing about Trump. I really like that about him. Biden, that dude, he's just starting wars left and right, and he's going to expose the United States. Nancy Pelosi is the chief lawmaker of the United States Congress. A duly elected president must submit. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like other people in the Congress are running the show. Any duly elected president must submit a bill to Nancy Pelosi, no matter what the president. Okay, yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting structure that we have here, and when you get up to that level, you got to understand. So many of them, even if they don't want to be, they're bought. They're bought because you need a lot of money to get your message out to people who will vote for you. You need a lot of money. And so they have to then get fundraisers. And those fundraisers end up saying, hey, I want a favor because I cut you a check for $100,000, $1 million. That's how these politicians get corrupt. It's not because they go in there. Exactly. Their base is those who actually give them fundraisers. Let me tell you a little story, because I've been involved in local politics. I volunteered on a campaign. We went to a fundraising event for free because we were volunteers, and the candidate who my wife and I were volunteering for, my wife, she's a great woman. She just pretty much tags along anything that I have my heart set onto. She's right by my side. She trusts my judgment. She knows it's far-sighted, and you have a good intuition. Anyway, so we were helping out with this candidate. Go to the fundraiser. He messages me out of the blue saying, hey, before we actually get there, before we go, he's like, hey, it might be good for you to come out. Going to be some good people there. I told him I had political aspirations. This was years ago. And said, hey, why don't you come? 554 Democrats are economically and morally responsible for the mess we are in. Yeah, and we are too. But anyway, so I'm like, all right, yeah. So he messages me. He's like, hey, you want to come to the fundraiser event tonight? It's at this country club. It's for free. Typically, you have to pay to come in because it's for fundraiser for, people who are supporting. But you can get in for free, you and your wife. And I'm like, awesome, sweet. So my wife and I go. We sit at a table where there were a bunch of other volunteers, about college-age kids. Initially, sit there, we talk. And then once the thing really gets going, everybody starts splitting up. And then we go and stand over at this high table with the vice president of this gun manufacturing company. He and I, really good conversation, really clicked. And pretty much spent the whole night talking with him. But I ended up looking for the candidate because I wanted to thank him for letting my wife and I attend for free. And I saw him talking to some of the people who were there. And so I waited for the moment where he appeared to be alone. Went over to him, went to, say, hey, thank you. I won't say any names or anything. Went to go say, hey, thank you. He saw my wife and I and kind of gave us a cold shoulder and went on his way to talk to others. And at that moment, I was like, he's not talking to me because I ain't giving him no money. I ain't getting him no play. I'm just over here volunteering for him, though. I'm knocking on doors for him, but I'm trying to be a gentleman, shake his hand, say thank you for inviting my wife and I here. It means a lot. And just totally ignored us until after the event, of course, and everybody left. And then he came back over with all the other volunteers and started talking with us. But the reason I share this story is because even at the local level, you're going to see some sort of corruption. They're going to be pandering to their base, to those who are going to give them money. And so you don't need to have that much money to be influential in local politics. You give somebody running for city council $1,000, it's quite a bit of money at a local level. Give them $10,000, a lot of money at a local level. So, you can throw your weight around a lot easier at a local level, and it's easier to ingratiate yourself in that network at a local level, if that's what your goals are, which not necessarily a bad thing to do, especially as we head into these times where we may see more drastic overreach and things like that when it comes to World War III, when it comes to the monkeypox virus. So, yeah, don't think, I'm a big proponent of people getting into local politics, but don't think that it's not corrupt. I can tell you stories about the local papers that I heard with this one candidate I was helping out. There's leaks, there's rumors, there's scandals in local politics, even at a small level. I don't live in a big city. I don't live in a big city at all. There was scandals, rumors, all of that stuff in local politics. Politics is a dirty, dirty game. It's a dirty, dirty game. It's a necessary game, though, because we need somebody to govern. Maybe our political system isn't the best. I actually think this is this may sound un-American, but I think it may be a lot better to have leadership for life or for a longer period than 4 years. I don't think it would be a bad idea to maybe have a president, for more than 4 years. Because think about it. What can you really get done in 4 years? Because by the time you're actually pushing through bills, getting them signed into law, it's already 2, 3 years in. And at that 2, 3 year mark, what do you need to start doing? You need to start building your war chest. You need to start getting ready to get reelected again. And so it's just this perpetual cycle of fundraising, which then it ends up getting politicians in more and more corruption because they have to take more and more money from people. And then they get asked more and more favors of people. So maybe it would be better if we paid politicians more and we gave them a longer time frame to govern. Maybe we would get more of a coherent message, more of a coherent a government overall. If you're in for 4 years, whatever you did, the next president gets the credit for. Yeah, exactly. So it doesn't make sense. Like, I think that the presidency should be much longer. If you were president for 4 years, whatever you did, yeah, 100%. So, you need to, not that you need to do anything, but I think that if you give politicians more money, which sounds counterintuitive, I get it, but if you pay them more, then you would have less corruption because they wouldn't be going after these big fundraisers to get as much money and support their campaigns. And then you would also eliminate the issue of the revolving door, where you have congressmen, congresswomen going out of politics and then getting into lobbying, becoming a lobby for some big corporation. So you'd end the revolving door if you pay them a lot more, and you would end a lot of issues by extending their terms. I think people will be smarter in who they elect. I mean, hell, for Congress, what is it, every 2 years? If you're in the House of Representatives, I think the election's every 2 years. Is that right? I don't know. Or is it 4 years? Let me look up. I should know this. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Term. House of Reps term length. What is it? 2 years. I was right. It's 2 years. So, you increase the House of Representatives term lengths, you increase the senators' term lengths, you increase the president's term lengths, and you pay them more. You pay them a lot more money. I think that would solve a lot of issues and maybe even implement some sort of testing for voting. I don't think everybody should be able to vote either. I think that you should have to own land. I think that you should have to have a certain level of education to exactly know what's going on. You should need to have some sort of level of financial literacy to know what's going on. It doesn't make sense that we have people voting in elections that have $200,000 in consumer debt, and they're going to vote on somebody for the economy. That's insane. That's insane. I think there should be higher voting standards. I think the term length should be increased. I think that money should increase as well. Yale University, Professor Keegan, remember that class? I don't know. Let's look that up. Yale University. Matt Keegan? Let's see. Matt Keegan. Okay. School of Art? I don't know. I'll have to look into it some more after the show. But yeah, guys. So that's pretty much what I had for the show today. So there's a lot of things to watch out for, be aware of. Nothing to be afraid of, though. Just things to be aware of to make better decisions. And hopefully, you can put your family in a better position. Yeah, it's very well rounded. I'll look into them some more. So yeah, guys, thank you for showing up to the Honest Hour. I appreciate it. I'll be back here tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. You can catch me 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Going to be giving you the news, going to be speaking some truth, and hopefully leaving you with some hope of the future of a better tomorrow rather than fear and concern. Because one thing that I do find from a lot of other media platforms, especially truthers, is that they just fill you up with fear porn. Thank you for being you and allowing freedom to shine. Of course, thank you for being here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting. So yeah, we try to do the opposite of what other truthers do. They just focus so much on fear porn. They actually fearmonger. They actually get you in a state of anxiety. I tell you, I do listen to the Alex Jones show almost every day. Just because I want to hear what he's saying, because there's a whole section of truthers that are following Alex Jones. I listen to the Michael Knowles show because I want to listen to some traditional conservative talk points as well. And then I also listen to Apple's podcast where they tell you the 5 facts you need to know for the day, the Daily from the New York Times. I try to listen to a broad spectrum, and then I have a few different news sources that I read religiously to try and stay up to date. But one thing that I do find in the truther community is it's disgusting. It's just fear porn. It's like the world's ending. The collapse is coming. This is happening. Oh, monkeypox. This is the real one. This is going to kill. Like, come on, guys. Come on. None of the shit. This is why people think conspiracy theorists are crazy, because you got people like that saying the world's ending every freaking 6 months and the world never ends. Can you have military friends at your university and those in secret areas? Very cool. Yeah. So it's like, why? Why every 6 months there's this new thing that's going to take out the world? It's because there's this huge market for it, and they're just selling you nonsense. Here at MOT, you'll see Monday through Friday, you'll see it, and then on Sundays, you'll see it as well when we get together with the guys, Mick and James. We have this powwow, this round table, if you will, where we discuss these issues from the week, and we try to say things and do things that'll empower people, that'll give them hope as opposed to fear in the future. Because a lot of the stuff that you get from truthers is that the world's doomed. It's all gloom. Dystopia is coming for you. But nobody talks about the fact that, yeah, they're building smart cities, and that means that, guess what? City-states will be a thing, and that means you can utilize that. Nobody wants to talk about, hey, yeah, cryptocurrencies are coming out, and yeah, there'll be a central bank digital currency, but you know what that means? That means that you can create your own cryptocurrency too, or get involved in your own cryptocurrency community and use your own freaking money. Like, come on. There's so many things happening right now that you should be optimistic about. I own a business. I own another business outside of this, and it's a good time to grow. It's a good time to grow right now. It's a good time to grow. It's a good time to grow. There's a lot of opportunities here. And so here at MOT, that's what we try to do. We try to show you guys where the opportunities are. We try to give you objective news. Obviously, we intertwine it with our opinions a little bit, but ultimately it's to provide hope. So, and true hope, not false hope. Not false hope. None of that false hope. So thank you guys for coming in, supporting, and being so active in the chat today. I love it when you guys come in here and you're active in the chat. It makes the show so much better. It makes it more interactive. So thank you very much. So if you haven't already, hit the plus sign, hit the subscribe button, like, follow, share, all that good stuff. These podcasts are going to be put up on Apple, Spotify, all of that good stuff as soon as it's done here. So you can pass this along to a friend. That'd be awesome. And consider supporting MOT Media through my personal Cash App. It is Luis Acevedo 27. So that's $LUIS ACEVEDO 27. So consider supporting the show. It'd be much appreciated. But guys, thank you very much for coming in. I'm going to get off of here. Pass this along with a friend. Find us on Apple under Minds of Tomorrow, Spotify, Minds of Tomorrow, YouTube, MOT Media. Follow, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, guys, we will be back here tomorrow, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Much love. Peace.